The Mount Carmel Rotary Club would like to welcome all of you to our 102nd gathering to honor the Red Tornado football team. The year 2020 has been like no other in our history in the ways we have to deal with the pandemic and all the fatal problems associated with it. This is the first virtual presentation honoring this athletic program. At this point in time, I ask all to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we are going to turn the program over to Father Michael Hutsko, who is the rector of St. Peter and Paul's Ukrainian Church in Mount Carmel. Father Mike has graciously agreed to gift us with an invocation, something that he has done for the last 5 years at the annual Rotary football banquet. Father Mike has been loyal to the Mount Carmel area football program and serves as the chaplain for the Red Tornado Supper Club as well.
Let us bow our heads in prayer. Almighty and loving Father, be with us today with your invisible presence. Shower upon us the fullness of grace to strengthen our hearts and minds, that we may persevere through all the challenges of daily life to love and to serve you. Our ceremonies today, as we continue the tradition of the Rotary Football Awards Banquet, are meant to honor those athletes who have used the talent and ability you have imbued in them to excel in both the classroom and on the field. As we gather in this virtual mode, reach down from your heavenly abode and extend your blessings upon the members of the Rotary Club, the coaches, the support staff, parents, family members, and most of all, the players themselves. This year has brought a multitude of challenges: COVID, virtual learning, social distancing, as well as choices made that caused a season to be lost. Through it all, we look to you, Heavenly Father, to extend your mercy and compassion and forgiveness to all who call upon you with a humble heart. We trust in your promise that even in the darkest of times, your promise to be with us even until the end of time. Help us to see your path. Help us to grow closer to you. Give us the mind and heart to overcome the obstacles before us. As always, lead us all to victory. Victory in faith, victory in spirit, victory in the classroom, and victory on the playing fields. With your presence and help, all things are possible. Amen.
Thank you, Father Hutsko. Now I'd like to introduce Jose Gonzalo as our Master of Ceremonies for the remainder of this program. Jose has been involved with the Mount Carmel area football program since the 1972 season and has been the statistician since 1976. That is 45 years. Jose has chaired or co-chaired the banquet committee since 2000 and has served as the Master of Ceremonies since 2015.
Thank you, Frank. Let me just say thank you to you and your fellow Rotarians for putting in the effort and trying to continue to sponsor this banquet for 102 consecutive years. In this a year like we've seen no other. Thank you once again for all of your hard work. I would also, before I get going, like to thank the administration at Mount Carmel Area High School, Superintendent Peter Cheddar, Principal Lisa Ferrano, Principal John Dara, Athletic Director Greg Sikavich, and Our Lady of Lourdes Athletic Director Mike Klembara. for all of their hard work and doing their best to put our student athletes on the field in this most tumultuous time. I would also like to thank my fellow colleagues on the Mount Carmel Area School Board. Your tireless efforts and your work almost daily in helping with the decisions to move this district forward are truly appreciated, and I am proud to say I am part of this board at this particular time. But none of this would happen without Dave McPhee. Dave McPhee and his fellow students at WKMC-TV here in Mount Carmel have been able to do things at this school district to keep our fans aware of what's happening and what's going on. So to all of you, thank you so very, very much. Before I continue with the program, I'd like to run a couple of things by you that I'd like to call COVID casualties. In this year that has been like no other, we have had some things happen that have really changed the face of Mount Carmel Area Football Program. Right before the season got started, our first 2 games were canceled, so we lost our North Schuylkill game. If any of you are counting, we have played North Schuylkill every year since 1966, the year of their jointure. That's been 50-some years right now, and if you go back to 1938, we have played an Ashland-based team. Since then, 82 consecutive years, it has all been lost because of COVID. This would have been our 100th meeting with an Ashland-based team this year. At the end of the season, our annual Shamokin Tussle, which would have been our 114th in this long-standing series, was also canceled because of scheduling changes with the playoff system here in Mount Carmel and in the PIAA. The game would have given Mount Carmel the opportunity to win its 25th straight, which we were all hoping for, but on the other hand, it would have given the Indians an opportunity to stop that streak. That, however, is gone. Along with that, we have played Shamokin continuously since 1934. That is like 86 years since we played them, and it's gone. That record is gone. We also only played 3 games. The last time we played 3 games, ironically, was the 1918 pandemic, when we were 1-1-1. So this took a toll. Our record ended up at 2-5. The 7 games that were scheduled were the fewest games we played since the World War II in 1941. That's a long time, and that's a few games. The 2 wins we had were the fewest since 1951, something that I don't think would have been the case had we been able to play the season. And it's just a sad commentary on what's happened. We also had individual casualties here because of COVID. Reed Witkowski had registered 39 tackles in just 3 games. There is no doubt in my mind that he would have been one of the few athletes to register 100 in two back-to-back seasons. He would have had an opportunity for 300, a number that only 12 athletes have managed in their careers. He's averaged 11 tackles a game in the 15 games that he started. And those numbers are only matched by Mike Diminick and Frank Sheptock. Julian Steller has now recorded 96 points kicking the football, and he surely would have reached the 100 plateau, a number that has only been shared by 2 other athletes in our history, Rosalino Mangiapane and Mike Sinkovich. Damon Daukus had registered 3.5 sacks in just 3 games, putting him at 14 for his career. There is no doubt in my mind that he would have surpassed his father, Dan, and got to the number 17, which would have placed him in the top 10 in our career at Mount Carmel. One more athlete was young Michael Ferronato, who just began his career here and had 257 yards and kickoff returns in just 3 games. He only needed 133 to make the top 10 list and make the book. So you see a lot of things happened this year that have changed the complexion of our program. At this time, I would like to turn the program over to head coach John Dara, who will introduce you to his players and his staff, and he will in turn introduce Cassandra Niglio, who is the cheerleading moderator and has done a fantastic job with those girls, and they'll tell you a little bit about their players and cheerleaders. So John, take it away.
Thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce the senior members of our football team. Number 1, Garrett Timko. After being involved in basketball and track and field, Garrett became a first-year football player in 2020. With outstanding speed and strength, his potential as a player was through the roof. A very hardworking, respectful, and coachable player, Garrett became a starter at tight end during summer camp. He was also involved defensively as an outside linebacker in our defense's third down dime package. Number 2, Michael Belichick. Always a great talent on the basketball court, Michael first joined the football team in 2019. Being extremely intelligent, he was able to pick up on our defensive scheme throughout the summer and became a starter at cornerback in his first year playing varsity football. He earned his stripes being tasked with covering some of the area's best wide receivers during his junior season. As a senior, Michael worked extremely hard to bulk up in the weight room and became a starter as a flex tight end. Showing flashes of greatness throughout the shortened summer, he had 6 catches for 108 yards and a touchdown in 3 games during the 2020 season. Number 6, Austin Garankowski. Austin was a 4-year member of the football team and probably the most persistent individual I have been associated with as a coach. He never missed a day in 4 years, not a practice, not a summer session, not a lifting session. Although he was not blessed with great size or speed, his persistence paid off as he started his first game at safety and scored his first career touchdown in 2020. Austin's work ethic is second to none, and he will be a very successful individual in the future. Number 9, Tyler Owens. A 3-year member of the football team, Tyler hit his stride as a senior in 2020. An extremely versatile player, Tyler led the team in all-purpose yards and touchdowns throughout 3 games. His ability as a runner, receiver, and blocker made him the perfect fit to play wing in our offense. Always a great cover corner, Tyler added a lot of size in the offseason, became a very physical defender, and developed the ability to play anywhere in our secondary. Number 10, Nate Long. Nate was a first-year player in 2020. Although he joined the team late, I was very happy to see him give football a try during his senior year. Nate had a lot of potential at defensive back and showed flashes when given the opportunity in practice. He currently is doing a great job as a 3-point sharpshooter with our basketball team. Number 12, Ethan Finella. Ethan was a 3-year member of our football team. Although he dealt with some injuries throughout his career, he showed potential at both cornerback and wing. Ethan is always there to help someone in need and is extremely involved in our community as a member of the Atlas Fire Department. Number 21, Reed Wikoski. A 4-year member of our varsity football team, Reed became a captain in his senior year. He truly took his work ethic to the next level in 2020. Reed sold out on every down in both games and practice, all while being a great mentor to our younger players. He finished his career with 219 tackles, 30 tackles for loss, and 10 sacks, which included 39 total tackles, 7 tackles for loss, and 4.5 sacks in 3 games in 2020. In 2019, he became one of only 8 players in MCA history to average over 10 tackles in a game in a season and finish his career averaging 11 tackles in a game. Reed also received the Mike Terry Award in 2019, and his hit on the kickoff team in that cold bucket game was definitely one of the best hits I've seen as a coach. Number 29, Damon Daukus. A 4-year member of our varsity football team, Damon also became a captain in his senior year. He had an outstanding offseason leading into 2020 where he transformed himself from a fullback to a tailback and led our team in rushing with 233 yards in 3 games. Along with his rushing ability, Damon was always a solid pass catcher out of the backfield, adding 2 career receiving TDs to go along with his 7 career rushing TDs. On defense, he finished his career with 14 sacks and 27 tackles for loss, including 3.5 sacks and 5 tackles for loss in his senior season. He served as our long snapper for 3 seasons and blocked 2 punts during his career. Number 45, Michael Reed. A 4-year member of our varsity football team, Michael played his best in the final game of his career. Michael was an extremely selfless individual, showing up to practice every day and working extremely hard in drills and on the scout team. He developed into a solid special teams player in his junior year and expanded on that role in his senior year. In his final game, he was able to notch 6 tackles defensively and scored his first career touchdown. His mother, Gretchen, also baked our team delicious chocolate chip cookies for every game. Number 50, Aaron Elliott. Aaron was a 3-year member of our varsity football team. His work ethic improved every year as he developed as a player and became a starter at guard and defensive end in his senior season. He finished his senior campaign with 11 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. Known as Squishy to his teammates, Aaron was an extremely friendly individual who was never seen without a smile on his face. He is also active in our community as a member of the Mount Carmel Area Rescue Squad. Number 67, Eddie Montanez. Eddie was a first-year player in 2020. Although he joined the team late, it was great to have him as a member of our team. Eddie had a ton of potential as an offensive and defensive lineman, having both great size and agility. He has always been a very friendly individual and is well liked by all of his teammates. To all of our seniors, thank you for all your hard work and commitment to our football program, and good luck in all your future endeavors. I would now like to honor the underclassmen on our football team as well. Our juniors, Thomas Davitt, Pedro Feliciano, Julian Steller, Dalton Moser, Kenny Wetzel, and Michael Keir. Our sophomores, Michael Farinato, Garrett Verano, Jacob Zarski, Dylan Weaver, Liam Bradley, Ashton Burchett, Kellen Geary, Jack Robert, Matthew Chicatano, Michael Langton, Nick Nestico, Tyrell Carter.
And Matthew Kelly.
Freshmen, Cole Spears, Jacob Schultz, Justin Widener, Ryan Widener, Maddox Lamosse, and Daniel Krippelbauer.
Good evening. I would like to start out by thanking the Mount Carmel Area School District, School Board, Administration, Athletic Department, Student Body, Coach Dara and his staff, football players, Mr. Steller and the Big Red Band, Mr. McPhee and the TV studio members, and lastly, our cheerleading families and fans for their continued support towards our cheerleaders and program. This year, our cheerleading program had close to 80 individuals try out in hopes of becoming an MCA cheerleader. Out of those 80 candidates, we were able to again form 3 full squads of varsity, junior varsity, and junior high members and watch as our program grew. We were also able to take our program to new heights as we were approved in March of 2020 to officially become a sport at Mount Carmel Area and make history as the first competitive cheerleading team. During a year of uncertainty, our girls remain resilient with positive attitudes to still make this year a memorable one, upholding traditions and fulfilling the duties that come with being an MCA cheerleader. This group of girls, however, is not finished yet. They have recently competed in their first competition and will hopefully be able to successfully and eventually finish out their season. The girls that I'm about to recognize have come a very long way from the beginning of our season back in March. Some have stepped out of their comfort zones, others have advanced their skills, and all of them are sure to put a smile on my face each and every day that we are together. I am beyond fortunate and honored to be able to coach this group of girls, and I wish them nothing but the best in all of their future endeavors. Your 2020 Mount Carmel Area Varsity Cheerleading Team members are as followed. Sophomores, Jenna Pizzoli, Rachel Witkoski, Avery Daukus, Leah Shedleski, Ashley Wills, Morgan Coletta, Avery Shurock, Carly Madison, Natasha Lepotsky, Julia Pikavage, Ava Hollenbush, and Leah Rasinko. Juniors, Livia Zalaki, Elise Mikowski, Molly Petrucci, Mia Chapman, Maddie Fort, and Kiara Blocker. Seniors, Captain Gia Yankuski, Captain Talia Mazzatesta, Captain Claudia Morris, Riley Geary, Belle Parker, Amara Pulowski, and Cheyenne Whitmer. I would also like to mention the 3 freshman cheerleaders who have joined our competition cheerleading team and have benefited us in many ways. Kayliana Kalbarczyk, Aslan Hollenbach, and Hannah Benedict. Thank you to our assistant coaches, Brooke Bartle and Hannah Monger, for their time and dedication to our program, and a special thank you to the parents of our cheerleaders. Thank you for raising your daughters to be kind, smart, and cooperative individuals who are just beginning to make a difference in this world. I am always proud to coach them.
Thank you, John and Cassandra, for introducing us to your players. At this point in the program, we're going to do what we've always done. If you know Mount Carmel's history, we've had some wonderful speakers at our banquets, from Joe Paterno to Johnny Majors to Dick Vermeil to 3 of the 4 horsemen, Notre Dame. Obviously, that's become more difficult with the times today with agents and everything else. And about 15 years ago, we decided to bring back Mount Carmel area greats. And this year is no exception. And it's worked out really well, by the way. But this year is a guy I've called for the last 3 or 4 years and have been unable to have him come because he sort of lives bi-coastal, and I really mean bi-coastal, where he lives here part-time and in Hawaii part-time, so he's usually there at this time of the year. But we were able to get him this year, and that person is Judge Bob Sikavich. Bob's a 1969 graduate of Mount Carmel, where he was a 3-sport star. He got to play football for Coach Jazz Diminick, and he began his starting midway through his sophomore season and went on to produce a 31-3 record over the course of his career. He was also instrumental in having the Tornadoes get back to the championship realms, where they won the Southern Division Championship in 1968, the first at Mount Carmel since 1954, which this is the 1954 championship trophy. Bob ended up earning a All-State first-team mention from Associated Press and did wonderful things here. Following the football season, Bob wrestled for Mount Carmel. We probably all remember him there for winning the 3rd state championship at Mount Carmel in our history. It was back in the days, by the way, of one and done. You couldn't lose, you couldn't wrestle back. And on the way, he wrestled 2 of the greatest wrestlers in Pennsylvania history just to get out of District 4. He beat Ed Ott in the district quarters, where Ed went on to be a professional baseball player for years with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And then he beat Floyd Shorty Hitchcock, who went on to win an NCAA title and a national world title wrestling. And Bob beat both of them to get to the championship and win it. Along the way, he set a national record in pinning a young man in 4 seconds, which is a record that still stands today at 165 pounds. Following the season, Bob, after winning the championship, let me tell you that Bob was the first area athlete to be named first-team football All-State and to win a state championship in wrestling. That feat has only been duplicated by Jerry Marks and Gage Garcia of Southern Columbia. Following graduation, Bob went on to Columbia after offers from Penn State, Lehigh, Army, Navy, Virginia, a number of other great wrestling schools at the time, but chose to take the academic route and go to Columbia. He ended up helping a team that was 1-10 as in his sophomore year to winning 21 matches in the next 2 seasons, and when he was following, his senior season was named All-Ivy. Bob then matriculated at Villanova University Law School, where he graduated in 1976. But prior to graduation, Bob would face his most difficult foe in Victor the Bear. Yeah, that's right, Victor the Bear. He wrestled a bear in Philadelphia at the Civic Center and turned him on its back and was considered a pin at the time. So Bob finally ended his career with that match. He returned to Northumberland County, where he served as a district attorney for 12 years and as one of the judges in Northumberland County, the last 10 as the president judge. Bob retired in 2013, and he lives between Blackwell in Pennsylvania and, like I said, Hawaii with his wife, Mary Glopix. Bob is the son of the father of 3 daughters and the grandfather of 2. We're really proud today to have Bob Sikavich talk to you about Mount Carmel area football and some things that will help you throughout the course of your life. Bob Sikavich.
Members of the Rotary Club, coaches, players, cheerleaders, board members, parents, and Red Tornado fans. And special thanks to Jose Gonzalo and David McPhee. When I was an athlete at Mount Carmel, and I will use the name of that town to represent all the towns that make up the Mount Carmel Area School District. The Rotary Club was the marquee event of the winter season. Some notable speakers appeared. Jim Brown, a star running back and the best running back of his era, and a member of the NFL Hall of Fame. Duffy Daugherty, a famous coach at Ohio State, and our own Joe Paterno, the legendary coach of Penn State, all appeared here. Paterno was so popular at the time that many people believed that he, at any moment, could run for governor and win, either as the nominee of the Democratic Party or the Republican. Obviously, these are different times, and although I am just a local guy who is a devout Red Tornado fan, I am honored to be chosen to speak to you. And as you know, in the early part of my career, I was devoted to sports as a young man in Mount Carmel. Later, I studied law and became a judge. After many years on the bench, I was known for short speeches and long sentences. Being trapped in a pandemic makes the easier things we once did a little harder. Instead of convening in a large catering hall and feeling the electricity of the crowd, we now communicate in cyberspace. It gives me greater appreciation for teachers who have to carry on their work before a computer screen. There is one small benefit from watching this speech on a screen. If you get too bored listening to an old geezer talk about the glory days, you can find relief through the flick of a digital device. I prepared the speech with thoughts about why football is so special in Mount Carmel. I have a history degree and focused its lens on where it started and how we are now affected by the unusual events that we experience. Let's start with the game. It was in the late 1800s. An extraordinarily tough and dangerous sport captured the imagination of college athletes in the eastern United States. It was so violent that a movement grew to outlaw the sport. By the end of the century, a young president of the United States, Theodore Roosevelt, an advocate of living the strong life and himself a football fan of the Harvard team, intervened, and he organized the National Collegiate Athletic Association. And he charged the NCAA with organizing the sport and regulating it for safety. Football was saved. It's probably one of the reasons Teddy is on Mount Rushmore. In those days, there was no rougher place to live in the United States than the anthracite coal fields of Pennsylvania. The brutal sport of football found fertile soil in the Pennsylvania coal towns. This is where the Mount Carmel football story begins. Some have referred to it as a mythology, but that term suggests something beyond reality, extending into exaggeration. However, what happened reveals something of flesh and blood, sweat and tears, and a healthy amount of genetic predisposition. The early waves of immigration brought together a famous melting pot of diverse groups, races, and religions. One of the democratic levelers was the field of sports. Youngsters mingled, and many proved their mettle on the field of sports competition. Coal towns were not an easy place to live. Men and boys worked in the mines together. Education was scarce, and there was only Sunday available for leisure time. That's when the new Mount Carmelites devoted their leisure time to football. It brought together moms, dads, families, and the townspeople into a competition that became a little friendlier with the passage of time. It was in this precious leisure time that they talked, cheered, developed a strong sense of community and pride, and a cultural heritage had begun. Communities outside of the coal region had sports teams that were likewise looked upon with pride. The sporting events provided entertainment and promoted a healthy environment for youngsters. So, what was different in Mount Carmel? In Mount Carmel, football was regarded as life itself. It commanded community involvement. A permanent class of gatekeepers evolved. There have been books written over the years about how it takes a village to raise a child. The football heritage in Mount Carmel reflects that phenomenon. When you have a town with close-knit families, those gatekeepers, and the many diverse citizens that make up that group, they all looked out for the interests of the kids. Growing up in Mount Carmel, I came to know and interact with those gatekeepers. They were neighbors, friends, coaches, teachers, police officers, merchants, professionals, and many more. They shared their time and were emotionally invested with the kids. The most remarkable thing is how transcendent generations from the late 1800s to the present day continued in this unique heritage. When you grow up in Mount Carmel, you notice the change of seasons. From late summer through late fall, the color red is more prominently displayed, and there is considerable chatter about the new team, the coaches, and the players. You can feel a community reawakening. It is time for the football heritage to wrap its arms around the community. Autumn is the social season in Mount Carmel. The town dresses up for football season. But the grand heritage, the tradition of Mount Carmel football, has run into some difficult times in recent months during this time of upheaval caused by the pandemic. Our kids are detached from all the important human support system that has been a lifeblood of the community. I know that from a fan and living among those gatekeepers. For many years, I have been a member of the Supper Club, and it well represents the diversity of the community that comes together every week to honor the players, cheerleaders, band members, and keep that continuity going. And right now, there's no Supper Club, and we miss that feeling. It's hard to make a speech, by the way, when you're speaking into a screen on cyber space. I'd love to be able to intermingle with everybody and speak to you all personally, but we're grateful for what we have, and we're particularly grateful to Mr. McPhee here, who's the electronic wizard of the Mount Carmel School District. The pandemic will come to an end one day, and we will need to restore that old historical heritage. We will begin that process by looking back and also looking within ourselves to learn how our forebears survived those hard times. We have survived the passage of generations who started from working in coal mines from dawn to dusk, sometimes not seeing the light of day for periods of time. Miners would get up in the morning before dawn, work a grueling shift, and come back when it was already dark, at least in the later part of the year. They were consigned to a very difficult life, a life of hard labor. They daily were exposed to explosions in the mines, exposed to poisonous gases, and if they survived, they looked forward to a rather young lifespan due to the onset of what they called miner's asthma. It was a terrible lung disease, and we look now at the coronavirus, and I for one, can't think it could be any worse than a minor's asthma, however deadly it is. There was no health insurance in those days. There were no social safety nets, yet they survived. Most of us trace our roots to that hardscrabble group of coal miners. They relied upon self sufficiency, the help of their neighbors, their churches, and those important gatekeepers. We also survived an earlier pandemic in 1918 and 1919. I hope you have had the opportunity to see the old photos with the many Mount Carmelites wearing masks and keeping safe social distancing. They got through it. They were at a disadvantage. We can do the same. There were also 2 world wars and a Great Depression. Men had to leave the community and go overseas and offer their lives to protect what we valued. That kind of uh, dedication to friends, family, and nation and community is still with us. We still have young people that go off into the military and defend our liberties. When times become desperate, we draw upon that old heritage that taught us how to suck it up and to prevail. Once again, the community must pull together for our own survival. We have valuable lessons that we have to help us along. Now, a football banquet would not be complete without some discussion of Mount Carmel football and some of those important things that touch upon the subject matter of the speech. When I was playing football in the 1960s, the mid to late 1960s, I was fortunate to play in a very historic game. In 1966, we took on the team of Carlisle. Now, to give you some background about that football game, Carlisle was a tremendous team. They were called the Thundering Herd, and they had been undefeated for 2 years. The prior year to playing Mount Carmel, they came up to the coal region and played St. Clair, which was a very small town right outside of Pottsville. St. Clair is currently absorbed into the Pottsville School District. But at that time, they laid a beating on St. Clair, and they came away with not much respect for coal region football. Indeed, their coach, his last name was Whitehead, Coach Whitehead made some disparaging remarks about the quality of Mount Carmel football. So then, a year later, the gauntlet was thrown down, and Mount Carmel was not just going to play a football game, but we were playing to preserve the self-respect of coal region football. And now I ask you to think about those people, those fans, those gatekeepers I mentioned. Well, it was a very different game, different than any I ever played in it. The turnout of the crowd set a record for the school. You know how it is on Friday night when you drive down 3rd Street and the band is playing and the school buses arrive and it's another Friday night. Not this time. 3rd Street from Mount Carmel High School at 3rd and Market all the way down to the stadium was lined 10 deep on each side. It was hard for the buses to get through. When we arrived at the stadium, it was a monster crowd. There was hardly room to get onto the field. As I looked up into the outskirts of the field on those coal banks that surround the field, they were filled to capacity. So this was something special. And we had a grueling game against this powerhouse team. And we were fortunate. We had the backing of of those fans, and I want to use that as an opportunity to tell you what it looked like from the player standpoint. We were in awe. We were supercharged. That feeling of electricity was running through us. We knew there was something at work here more than ourselves. We played hard. We had some great players. Greg Doviak was an All-American quarterback. Dabby Niglio was one of the best split ends that the team has ever known, and they put on a real display of offensive football. I was playing on defense, and we did our best to hold it together, and the game ended 32-28, and we were sky high, and that set a new standard right there for not only Mount Carmel football, but Mount Carmel's place in football throughout Pennsylvania. So look back on that and see the interchange between community and kids and how that was used to stimulate pride and take on an opponent that was probably greater than us. But on that given day, they weren't, because we had something special going. Now, I want to fast forward another 20 years or so and talk about another football game. And by this time, I was back in town working as a lawyer. I may have been a local prosecutor at the time. But we were playing some great football. We had some very tough kids, which was normal for Mount Carmel. And we were in the state playoff system by then. When I was playing, we didn't have a state playoff system. We just played in the Eastern Conference. But in these later days, we were pitted against Bishop McDevitt High School of Harrisburg. McDevitt reminded me of the old Carlisle team. They were world breakers. They had a powerhouse team, a strong line, great backs and quarterback. And about a week or so before the game, there was an article that appeared in the Harrisburg Patriot News, written by a columnist by the name of Horvath. And he made some disparaging remarks, echoing the words of Coach Whitehead a generation before. He talked about the different qualities of football that were played, that the Coal region did not stand up to the same qualities as District 3, I believe, and Bishop McDevitt. And he also poked fun at the ethnicity of the Coal region and those funny last names that we seem to have. Well, thank you, Mr. Horvath. When it came time to play the game, we played on a neutral field, which was Shamokin. Not that neutral, I guess, but it was the Shamokin field. And it was another record crowd. The people turned out from everywhere. It was hard to find a seat. I remember sitting up near the press box when Mr. Horvath came into the stadium, and he had to have a police escort. I thought that was rather unusual for a sporting event, but knowing what he had said, I guess it was the right thing to do. Anyway, Mount Carmel let loose. The team not only defeated Bishop McDevitt, but they literally pounded them as well. And every time Mount Carmel scored, a massive crowd of Mount Carmel fans turned their heads to the scoreboard, pointed at Horvath, and said, "Take that." So there was one other comment I heard from a fan from the opposition from Harrisburg who had come up. He looked at the size of the crowd and he says, "My God," he says, "they brought the whole town." And he was right. They did bring the whole town. That's how Mount Carmel reacts to hard times and competition. And that spirit continued, and I'll tell one last story. And that was when we were in a state finals game, and it was another dozen or more years later, and this time it was down in Hershey. And when we went into the stadium, one side of the field was filled up from bottom to top, from left side to right side, with thousands and thousands of fans. It was not surprising that it was the record number of fans that ever showed up for a state championship football team. And there were all those gatekeepers, all those fans that came back once again to support the team. We won that game handily. I'm not sure we set a record in scoring, but we won it very, very handily. So That's how it works in Mount Carmel with the heritage. The people of the town are concerned about the lives of their kids and how their kids react to pressure and and how we support ourselves. Maybe it's the hard scrabble DNA left over from the coal miners. Maybe it's just that we live in these close-knit communities. So I want to finish this by telling you what we have to do. We have to go back to those times and go back to those values that we had in the community. There is no excuse not to. We're going to get over this. And when we do, we have to get back to these kids and we have to support them. We have to demonstrate what it is, what the values are of living in the town, and, and depending once again upon the same thing, churches, those gatekeepers, those supper clubs, and all those people that make up the community. And as we are in this together, we all should think of it this way. Sometimes we have hard times. Sometimes somebody will come along and stumble. But if someone stumbles, we must pick him up. We must shake off the debris and restore him within the community. We must be mindful that there are no guarantees in life itself. If we are to survive and once again thrive, we have to sacrifice and draw upon our common heritage. Be proud of where you come from, no matter what setbacks occur. Know always that when you face an opponent, you are never alone. After all, if they fight you, they have to fight the whole town. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob, for that most inspiring and encouraging speech. It is really appreciated that you were able to do this for us today. Before I turn this back to John, this is the point in the program, by the way, that we would normally give out awards and give all state, and basically we were shunned by everyone. We won't particularly say like that. They really had an opportunity, but they all felt that three-game sample was not enough to decide who was the best at this or that. The Supper Club, however, if you remember in the beginning of the season, we were unable to have the Supper Club like we normally did. So we asked for donations from our fans to pay for the sweatshirts that we normally get. We got enough donations that we were able to provide sweatshirts to all of the football players, all of the cheerleaders, as well as the senior members of the band, TV studio, and we added the senior soccer players, volleyball players, cross-country runners this year to that list. So we're really happy that we were able to do that. So thank you to the donors that were able to do that for us. In addition, we've had enough money left over, so the fact that you're not receiving a meal at this banquet, we were able to work out something with Nick Matucci at Matucci's that we're going to give you tickets that will provide the 25 cheerleaders and 36 football players a supper club ticket, which will entitle you to a large pizza at Matucci's, and we'll be getting those to your coaches and advisors. So thank you for that. I will now turn the program over to John, and he will talk a little bit about the season and what he'd like to hear from you.
To our 2020 seniors, thank you for all your hard work and service to our football program and school district. Although the season did not go as we dreamt it would, you have all developed into outstanding young men ready to begin the next chapter of your lives. Stay strong, stay positive, and know you can conquer any obstacles you may face. Good luck. I am sure your futures will be bright, and if there's anything I can ever do for you, please let me know. To our underclassmen, the 2021 season begins now. We have a young team and all sorts of potential, but potential alone will not make us successful. Do not wait to begin preparing yourself for the challenges that lie ahead. Set your goals high and don't stop working until we reach them. The time is now. Let's make 2021 the best season yet. Go Big Red.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Aaron Domansky, president of the Red Tornado Touchdown Club Booster Organization. And I just want to give a congratulations to the 2020 Red Tornadoes, especially our senior members. Seniors are reminded that they could pick up their senior Letterman jackets at the Academy Sports Center during regular business hours. Also, I'd like to thank all of our parents, players, and anyone who helped out our booster group this past season. I know things were tough with the COVID-19 pandemic, but just want to give a special shout out to everyone who helped out and made this season a success, especially to Dave Clayman, who helped organize and run our golf tournament at Mountain Valley, and also to Mrs. Diane Dara and Mrs. Kelly Domansky, who make sure that the boosters are running smoothly from season to season. But thank you to everyone, coaches, players, and especially our 2,000 seniors. Go Big Red.
I would like to thank the seniors as well and say thank you for your 4 years of hard work here at Mount Carmel area and your commitment to the program, and wish you nothing but the best going forward. We made it through 2020. You guys can make it through anything. Just remember that. Do your best to make us all proud. To the folks coming back, we have probably not ever had a more important off-season than this one will be. Your hard work is absolutely necessary to put this program back together and to bring it back to respectability and be competitive on the field. I know that you're the group to do it, and I wish you all well and wish you luck in doing it. I always like to leave you something to remember, and this year has been no different. I found these things on the internet. I know you guys laugh at me because I'm able to use some of those things, but I thought it was appropriate to you, and I thought it was appropriate to this team. It's called the 7 Rules of Life. 1, let it go. Never ruin a good day thinking of the bad day yesterday. 2, ignore them. Don't listen to them. Live a life that's empowering only to you. 3, give it time. Time heals everything, believe me. Don't compare. The only person you should try to beat is the person that you were yesterday. Number 5, stay calm. It's okay not to have everything figured out. I'm as old as I am and I still don't know what I'm doing. But just know that time will get you there. Number 6, it's on you. You're the one that's in charge of your happiness. You're the one that's in charge of your success. Make the best of it. Number 7, just smile. Life is short. Enjoy it and the things you have around you while you have it. Thank you so much for thank you for everybody for tuning in to the banquet tonight. Once again, I turn it over to Father Mike and thank him once again, and he will finish off the program for us. Thank you and good night.
Heavenly Father, as these ceremonies come to a close, please accept our gratitude and thanksgiving for the gifts and blessings you have so abundantly poured forth upon all of us. We are grateful for the opportunity to recognize and honor these athletes. We are thankful for all those who organized and planned this event. We pray for your continued presence in our lives. Be a guide to us as we navigate the twists and turns of life. Lead us ever closer to you. Inspire our words and deeds to be positive and affirming. Keep us safe through this pandemic and allow us to not just survive, but to thrive. We ask all of this in your gracious and glorious name. Amen.